Hey everybody, welcome to Mr. Joynt Live on YouTube. This is Conspiracies and Cold Beverages, episode 5. We are talking Preludes to War, okay? So basically things that were going on prior to some of these massive events that led us into some of these big, I gotta turn the music down, led us into some of these big conflicts. And Mr. Joynt will be here in a second. He's getting his Metamucil drink ready so that he has a nice productive morning. But before we get started, we got to go over the worst part of the show. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube on this channel. It's just so you get notifications and stuff. So when we go live, we try to be here every Friday night at 8 p.m. And then we do accept donations. There's a link in the description on this YouTube channel. And there's the promo code already in the link. You get a free $5 for signing up. Now, I know $5 doesn't go very far these days, but it is something. You can donate to the channel, and we accept all donations. But when you make sure you send your donation, send it to the $RJoynt and put what it's for. We do have some merchandise coming out, okay? So we will be giving away Mr. Joynt Live t-shirts, and I have a picture of them right here. So these are coming soon. So when you donate to the channel, you get a free t-shirt, okay? We would appreciate donations of $20 or more just to cover the cost. But there's a nice Mr. Joynt Live t-shirt, and it has the Mr. Joynt Live logo, and then obviously the name of the show, Conspiracies and Cold Beverages, on the back. So make sure you donate to the channel, and you get a free t-shirt, and it looks like Mr. Joynt is ready. Hold on real quick. Let me grab. Sorry, that wasn't him. That was somebody else. Let me get Mr. Joynt.
Yeah. That's funny. Especially after today. Wow.
Yeah, what's crazy, huh?
Violation of the 10th Amendment. Sorry. Go read the 10th Amendment, Joe. Goodness sakes.
Yeah, it is.
It won't stand up. All the stuff he's done will not stand up unless the Supreme Court has decided to go to the...
Well, they don't even have a plan yet for it. They just announce it, right? There's no directive. They just say it's coming soon. We'll give you more details. There's a few things happening, though. You got the California recall election on Tuesday.
Yep.
Okay, They were sending Kamala down there. They're sending Klobuchar down there. The Pelosi's down there taking pictures with George Soros.
Barack Obama, George Soros and his son.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And so you got all these things happening, and then you got 9/11 tomorrow, the 20th anniversary, and all of a sudden today in the news, nobody was talking about Afghanistan. You know, if you went on Twitter, there was nothing about Afghanistan. It was all, vaccine mandates and violation of constitutional rights, and it got everybody all riled up. And so, I mean, what are they going to do? Honestly, they can't. What are they going to do when all these people, all these federal employees quit? You already got TikTok videos and YouTube videos and Facebook videos of government employees, people who work for the Treasury Department, the Secretary, all these places, and they're saying, "Hey, we're quitting. We're not taking this, whatever it is." So
they can all retire under the federal mandates. They can retire, and you won't have a government that's functioning anymore. So go ahead. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. Anyway, they also
how was dinner? You had
dinner was very good, thank you. Yes, we went to Wings Plus, one of your all-time favorites, and garlic wings. Whatever. Pretty packed. I was impressed. And anyway, it was very nice. Thank you. We're back, ready to go. Let's jump in. Go. I saw your...
All right, yeah, we got a lot of bait to cut.
Yeah, and let me just jump in real quick. This afternoon, when I was giving a quiz to my 7th hour class, they were all well behaved. So I went on the Vietnam Wall website to peruse the names of high school classmates I had that even before, during and after my time in high school that were killed in Vietnam, and there were 8 of them, and I knew 6 of them. I knew 4 of them extremely well, which is really weird. And it was kind of sad to see, because one of your topics tonight is the Gulf of Tonkin resolution of 1964, and to think that that was what kind of got us into the Vietnam, not got us in, but it did. That's what Lyndon Baines Johnson, soon after the assassination of John F. Kennedy, the Gulf of Tonkin occurred, Gulf of Tonkin resolution, and we're into Vietnam. And 4 of those 58,000 people that died, well, technically, I was trying to think if I knew all the names. Probably 8 names rang a bell with me. 6 I knew, 4 I knew well. And so the direct relationship, and I wasn't sure exactly what your itinerary was tonight, but I remember you saying something about the Gulf of Tonkin, and I thought, wow, this is, man, I can see those guys even now. 4 of them, and I don't know, we'll talk about that tonight, but I used to get in a fight with one of them in the neighborhood. I used to duke it out. We just didn't get along. We had opposing personalities. And to think that he was shot and killed 2 years after we graduated from high school in the same graduating class. And I have no way to resolve any of that with him in 1968 when he died in combat. I have no way. So Gulf of Tonkin resonates with me. Take it away. Go.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just wanted to talk mostly about, this is a conspiracy show. We talk about, stuff that's really not in a textbook.
No.
And it's it's stuff that I researched as a kid, or growing up, and stuff
Sure.
that you would tell me. But I think what's fascinating about each of these wars, so you mentioned Gulf of Tonkin, we'll get to that in a minute. But
Okay.
there was Pearl Harbor that led us
Sure.
into a huge conflict,
Yes.
obviously a world conflict.
Mhm.
And we all studied it in high school, unless obviously you weren't paying attention. We don't
Yeah.
really need to talk about what Pearl Harbor,
Mhm.
or World War II. Everything, this isn't a history show; it's a conspiracy show.
Right.
But there was a lot of things that happened prior to Pearl Harbor, and I mean that's what I
Yes.
got a picture of right there. That's Pearl
Okay.
Harbor.
Yes.
Just to give people perspective of obviously what it was. But we knew of a few things that happened prior. We actually kind of knew it was coming. All that stuff has come out now.
Yes.
That the president of the time, the
Yes.
military industrial complex at the time, the
Yes.
generals and stuff, they had intelligence of what was about to happen. And did they let it happen? Who knows? Why would they want to go into war? Because then you got to look at what happened post World War II and everything that kind of came out of that. And you're more of an expert on it than I am.
Well,
I just get my information off of,
Yeah.
the internet. So
they're all parked in a row, and they had been doing this for some years.
And they're older ships, right? These were
older ships.
kind of outdated ships. These weren't our top of the line ships, so they were kind of like I wouldn't say a decoy, but kind of like, hey, if they get blown up, it's not a big deal.
Arizona was built and keel laid in 1911. It was a rust bucket on those that sailed on it and knew her, and it was about to be decommissioned. And some of these other ships were too. 1909 to 1912. Keel laid ships, the Oklahoma, I don't know about the Nevadas on there, but yeah, you got some other ones. West Virginia.
Yeah, there's just whatever the picture could.
The guy that's still living from Pearl Harbor, that's the bugler on the West Virginia, he's still living. He's 103.
Wow.
Now, let me say this, and if anybody's listening from Broward Community College that I had in class, because I came across this later when I was looking through my uncle, Robbie's great uncle, who was on board the Hornet aircraft carrier that was in Pearl Harbor with the Enterprise and others, and they left Pearl Harbor and they were in a hurry to get out. The Hornet, the Yorktown, the Lexington, and it would be the Enterprise. And Enterprise didn't even have a functioning engine, and they were getting out of Pearl Harbor on December the 1st. And my uncle, who was a pilot, a Hellcat pilot asked, no, was he a Hellcat? I'm sorry, it's probably not important. ADP, I think it was the dive bomber. It wasn't the torpedo boats because those all got destroyed, torpedo bombers. But anyway, he was on the Gilbert Joynt. They can look him up if they want on. You can go to Fold 3 and read all this stuff if you want to do it. He asked his commanding officer when he was on, this is December the 1st, 1941, 6 days before, the Japanese, quote, surprise attack.
Right.
He asked his commanding officer, why are we getting out of here so quickly? And, the Enterprise, we're having to tow the Enterprise out because it wasn't even totally a functioning engine yet. They were having trouble with it. And he told, this is what, on the tape recording, you were there in 1993.
Yeah, I remember that.
Grandfather's funeral. We're sitting around the table.
Yeah.
And Gilbert is Uncle Gilbert, Hornet pilot, is skill of guts, crying. And this is, I don't know how many years later, a guy that supposedly did not have PTSD and survived, entire World War II. We'll get into that later. Maybe not. But he asked his commanding officer, why are we getting out of here so fast? Commanding officer of his squadron on the Hornet told him to shut his mouth and just do your job. So who knows what that was about? I don't know. They're all getting out of Pearl Harbor and they're going south, and the Japanese are coming in. Well, from your perspective, they're coming in from west to east, and we didn't pick it up until it was too late. Quote, too late. Franklin D. Roosevelt said in March of 1941, this is, 8 months before Pearl Harbor, he said, you can bet in American history, if something happens, yeah, it is meant to be that way. It was meant to be that way. Franklin D. Roosevelt said that. What's he talking about?
Yeah.
Pearl Harbor. Yeah. So anyway.
Now, in war is big money. So
sure. Military industrial complex. Look at Afghanistan. All the stuff we left there.
Yeah.
Your taxpayer dollars, all you guys sitting out here, I don't know what side of the political fence you're on. That was your money. And indebted. We went into debt to provide all those C-130s, all that stuff. And the Taliban has it. Perhaps the Chinese now have it. I mean, it's incredible.
Well, we'll get into that. Yeah, that's towards the end.
That's unbelievable. Yeah,
but yeah, similar things are happening. Yeah. The economy was not doing well. In America.
Nope.
There wasn't a whole lot of unification. Okay, there was multiple issues. There were a lot of people that disagreed. The war was already going on. Yeah. Hitler had already started, doing all these. He was the Blitzkrieg and all that had already started. He'd already invaded.
Yep.
The U-boats were already blowing up.
Yeah.
Freight liners and cargo
ships. They were
ships.
off the coast of Florida. U-boats. I've talked to people, some of them gone now, who live down here, and they would see U-boats off the coast of Florida, off the coast of Miami. Your you'd be Mama and Papa, whom you knew.
Yeah. Down in Key West.
They saw it. Well, them and also the ones in Opelika would see German U-boats surfacing off of Haulover Beach. That's what they said they saw. I don't know.
Yeah. Wasn't there a sunken one supposedly off of 17th Street Causeway?
17. Well, it's supposedly. I don't know if it's still there. They probably got it out.
They have naval buoys around it, like you
can't.
Yes.
And
you can't dive.
I saw pictures of it because the kids that went to Westminster. Let's see, one of them graduated, I think, 79 or 80. Anyway, yeah, they would do scuba diving, and they took a picture of a mini sub, a German mini sub that was off. Even Delray Beach, they have. I don't know how this happened. There's a diving place in Delray Beach. It's like if you go out there, it's called Jap Rocks, JAP, and I know that's a slur, but that's what it's called, Jap Rocks. And allegedly there no longer is. There was supposedly a Japanese mini sub off Delray Beach. I have no idea. I don't know.
Well, and then from what I read, supposedly there was an altercation. So we sank two Japanese mini subs.
Yes.
Prior to Pearl Harbor.
Yes.
So there was already stuff going on before this event.
and I can't remember the destroyer that was out there sinking one of the Japanese mini subs before, but the entire crew was from the state of Minnesota. Don't ask me how that happened, that some guys from an interior state of Minnesota would be in the Navy and on a sub, but they all enlisted together in the Navy. And one of them, last name is Myers. I don't remember his first name, and I'm sorry, kind of crept up on me. But he was on that ship, and he said something. And he even told, your stepmother Lisa's father, who later went into World War II in 1945 as an 18-year-old on a catamaran flying boat out of Corpus Christi, tracking German submarines that were still in the Gulf of Mexico in 1945. Neil Delaney, whatever he was, lowest level of the Navy at the time. He was a side gunner on a catamaran flying boat. It would be his uncle that was on this destroyer that destroyed one of the Japanese mini subs that said, something's up, man. The Japanese were already here in Pearl Harbor. They were here before the attack. The first shot of World War II, and you can go on some of the, like National Geographic has this, the first shot of World War II for the Americans was from this Minnesota veteran equipped destroyer off the coast of Hawaii that was sinking a Japanese mini sub that had just come out of Pearl Harbor. That was the first official American shot.
Right. So it wasn't just planes; they were using.
And they have found the mini sub, and there's the hole, and it's whatever that is, the whatever the top turret of the sub, I don't know. And there's the hole, and they have even gone in and gotten the shell, and it's an American shell from the ship. They could trace the shell.
Wow.
The ship. Yeah. Anyway, and that's
all these conflicts leads up to you had to get America to.
Yeah. How do we know this? How do we know all this stuff? You don't read this, as I say. I picked this stuff up later on, probably after I've left. Teaching a lot of these.
Well, they release the information, but they make sure they release it long after the event.
Oh yeah. I mean, I read this stuff and I'm saying, holy smoke, I knew this, but whatever. Okay, yeah, T-chart, World War II, yes. Wow.
Yeah, so the causes and effects of
good chart.
World War II.
Wow.
I got to put on my glasses to read it. I mean, we don't have to read the whole thing, but some of the stuff that kind of sticks out to me is we had an excuse to we created an atomic weapon, the first of its kind, right?
Yeah. Yes.
We were given funding to do it. It was a secretive experiment, the Manhattan Project. Yeah. So that was a whole, kind of, creating this weapon, this technology, instead of using it to power cities and
Westminster Academy's first chemistry teacher was somebody who had been through Oak Ridge, Tennessee, to work on the separation of the atom and the building of the Manhattan Project. He was part of that, and I can't remember the guy's name. Maybe somebody's going to text it. This would have been 1977 to about 1979. I can't remember his name, but But I had him speak to my class. If any of you are from the class of '79, that was the last class he spoke to. I had him come into my AP US History class at that time at Westminster, and he spoke to you guys. Because you guys were all making fun of him because he was a fuddy-duddy and stuff. But he was on the Manhattan Project, and they parceled it out. And I'll think of his name sometime in the show.
Any kind of government.
But a Westminster Academy teacher, chemistry teacher, that you guys had the honor of having, that you thought was probably senile, and he may have been, I don't know. Nice guy. But he came in and just spoke for like, I don't know, we weren't on block schedule, and it was still the 55-minute classes we had in 79, 78, 77. But I had him come in, even off topic. I said, hey, you got to come in. I'll think of his name, but probably nobody is that old that's watching this. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine.
Manhattan Project, atom bomb. He worked on it.
Yeah.
And they parceled it out so that nobody knew what anybody else was doing. Okay.
Right. That's how they always do it. Any kind of secretive project.
Brought it all together.
Yeah.
Lost elements, June 26, 1945. It's tested. He was not there, but he said he was appraised of it out of Oak Ridge, Tennessee. And then, what was his name? Somebody's probably going to, if they're watching. I doubt it, but if they are.
Right, but so World War II got us out of the Great Depression.
Right.
Okay. Uh, the United Nations. So we went from the League of Nations, which was
Yes.
World War One, to now the United Nations.
Right.
Okay. So that gets developed. And like I said, the economy rebounds. Okay.
Yeah.
Women join the workforce. So you have all these social changes. Now
Mhm.
you have to kind of say, it's the old chicken,
Mhm.
which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Right.
Was the war the result of us being attacked, or was there already a plan in place? These political scientists and all these these war advocates and the military complex, before they go to war, they have to basically lay out how much it's going to cost, and then what's the benefit, right? What's the return
Yep.
on investment?
Cost
We're
benefit, reciprocity. Yep.
Yeah. So all that. So was all this, planned? Because now that starts what the
Yeah.
China,
August.
Russia,
Yeah.
the communism, the Cold War starts right soon after, right? Pretty much right
Right.
after World War II, we started the Cold War with Russia,
Yeah. And
another global
right after,
superpower.
even prior to Pearl Harbor, on the Aurora U.S. battleship
Can you?
off the coast of Canada, the Atlantic Conference, Atlantic Charter Conference with Winston Churchill, Franklin D. Roosevelt, and a lot of which is still declassified. We still don't know what was going on during the Atlanta Conference, the Atlanta Charter Conference. We still don't know. Um, I understand like 70% of it is still declassified. What in 1941 is still being declassified that
Right.
we can't see today? And, it probably, according to Cordell Hull and others that were members of FDR's cabinet, it was the planning of World War II. The essence, we talked about this with Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
When he says in his diary, which he wasn't supposed to be publishing, Thanksgiving Day, right before Pearl Harbor, we discussed in the White House at the secret meeting was how we could go ahead and inflict, get things started without allowing too much damage to ourselves. This is 2 weeks before Pearl Harbor. You have the Secretary of the Navy, Secretary of Defense that are talking about these things. And I know we went over a little bit of this before, but why? And this is why I jumped in. I'm sorry. Was the word United Nations does not come up until Roosevelt is giving his speech to the joint session of Congress in August of 1941, right after the Atlantic Charter Conference. And he and Roosevelt, both Roosevelt in the United States, and by the way, they were fourth cousins. Interesting. Roosevelt's fourth
Who?
cousin, Winston Churchill,
Oh,
was
Winston
fourth
Churchill. Yeah.
cousin
Yeah.
through their
Yeah.
mother's side of the family. And Winston Churchill's before Parliament, and they're both calling the United States and Britain and France and Canada and the others themselves the United Nations 4 years until the organization even exists. They are calling themselves the United Nations.
Yeah.
And that would be like Robbie, you and your mother and I. We go out on our first date. Okay, we go out on our first date, whatever that was, McDonald's, probably because I'm Scottish. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're on our first date in 1975, and I say, "Hey, let's call him Robbie." And I don't even know nothing's happened
Yeah.
yet. We're not even married. We're not even engaged. Barely dating, and I've already predicted into the future. That's how insane this is. That Roosevelt and Churchill would go ahead and have a name for something, which doesn't come into existence until October 25th, 1945, in the signing of the San Francisco Charter for the United Nations. 1945, as you said, after World War II.
Yeah. Well, like I said, there's always you got to you got to have the public opinion.
Yes.
You got to get the public support, right? So you need that one event, that one, whatever it is, if
Yes.
it's planes flying into
Yeah.
hulls of ships and killing
Yeah.
Americans that are just sitting at a base,
Yeah.
and that'll tick off enough. That'll change the mind of the
Yes,
public.
it will.
That's
It'll
all they're
unite.
trying to do.
Yep. That's all it was. Mind
They just need
control.
that one event,
Yep. Yep. That's what it was.
And then here we go on another one. This is the Gulf of Tonkin. This is prior to Vietnam.
1964.
Yep. The USS Maddox. That's what the name I was
That's it.
trying to
That's it.
remember.
Yep.
The USS Maddox was basically in the Gulf of Tonkin, which is right above the South China Sea. It's, you got Taiwan. There's a map right there. I don't have my glasses on, Cambodia, but that's, North and South Vietnam. The USS Maddox was basically just attacked, okay, by a torpedo boat, okay,
Okay. Yep.
and so the first attack, they say, was legitimate, okay, but nobody really paid attention to it, okay.
Right.
It didn't get enough
Right.
of Americans' juices going. So then they said that there was a second attack, okay. Now supposedly the second attack never happened, but it was enough for Lyndon Johnson to go ahead and get his resolution. It's the Gulf of Tonkin resolution, which wasn't an article of war, but it was basically saying, "Hey, we're going to go start attacking these Vietnamese."
Right.
And obviously, you were alive during
Yes.
the Vietnam War, so
Yeah.
you're going to know a heck of a lot more about it than I do, and all the political and civil unrest that resulted in this
Sure.
what 7-year war, 50 something thousand Americans dead, your buddies that you were talking about.
Yep.
But this was the incident. They had to have, and this is why the topic tonight is preludes to war. These are the things that have to happen prior to get, to either get a resolution, and then, as in World War II, it was just they needed the public's support. They had to get, there was still some laws in place, right? They still had to get Congress involved, right? Wasn't that how it all went? You know history. I don't know.
If you're starting to lose audience here on this, let me just say this to some of our quote progressive left-wing friends. Oliver Stone's movie from 1991, JFK. This is one of the themes of that movie, and Oliver Stone is not a conservative, nowhere near it. But he basically takes a stand that you're taking on this about the origins of the Vietnam War. Not only that, but your uncle, Christoph's father, Uncle Gerhard, he was a Navy, I forget what his rank was, but he was an officer on one of the support destroyers, and I don't know which one that was, in the Gulf of Tonkin situation. And he even says there was something fishy about this. He didn't know what it was. He didn't buy into the fishiness of it until years and years later. He actually went in on swift boats like the one John Kerry was on up the Mekong River, and whatever, did all sorts of stuff there in 65 and 66, and learned. He knew French. Your uncle knew French. He had also mastered the Montagnard language and befriended a lot of Vietnamese as the war progressed and as the stages of it progressed. And Bell Helicopter and a lot of military industrial establishment companies made a fortune off the Vietnam War.
Well, and John F. Kennedy didn't want to get into the Vietnam conflict.
No, he didn't. No.
And there was a now, do you know the reasons why Vietnam was such a, why they were targeting Vietnam? Like why did they want to get
there's
into?
a lot of theories. The drug trade, opium, its relationship to the newly burgeoning now superpower, communist China. Yeah.
Yep.
There's a lot of stuff there, and you could go down so many holes there, sort of like Alice in Wonderland. Whatever hole you want to jump into, and I don't know where you'd end up. I really don't know. We don't know.
Well, we don't know because we weren't in charge. We weren't at that table.
No.
Now, the United Nations now are all talking about it too. So all those big top people, right? The elites and stuff. Yeah. So the central banks, there was a reason, right? So Kennedy was kind of tied into the Vietnam War. He wanted to dismantle the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
He wanted to
scatter the CIA.
Scatter the CIA, right? And this was a big CIA operation.
Mm-hmm. The overthrow of Diem, Premier Diem of Vietnam, prior to Kennedy's assassination, within weeks of Kennedy being shot. Before that, the Diem regime was overthrown, perhaps as a prelude to whatever was going to happen to the escalation in 63, 64 with Johnson coming in. sworn in on the tarmac of Dallas, Texas, as the body was. Well, we could go into
Yeah,
that. As
with
the
Jackie
casket,
Kennedy, who still
yeah,
has blood on her
yeah, she
clothes.
still has blood on her dress. The
There's
casket
a big
is in the
photo op.
back of casket is in the back of Air Force Two. The casket is empty, and the body, numerous people. Kennedy's body is in a body bag that has been thrown into the back in a hurry of Air Force Two, and then it's tossed out at Washington, whatever it was, the airport in Washington. I can't remember. Not
Right, because
Washington.
did you say that video of them taking out
Yeah,
the casket, like it seemed like it was very light, like it was just like
yeah.
they
The
were
guys are
pushing it
taking the
down
casket off
and they're lifting it up like it's
and
like
they
it
go,
was
man,
empty.
holy crap! This thing is. They didn't say holy. They said something else. This thing is light, man. There's nobody in here. And then you can hear a helicopter in the background, and testimony of some of the guys, Air Force guys that were on the Air Force Two, and also on this helicopter. There's a body bag. It's like a golf. They said a golf bag was thrown onto the back of the helicopter and flown to Bethesda Naval Air Station, which is where the autopsy took place. And in the autopsy, if you read David Lifton's book, Best Evidence, and you read the actual autopsy, the wounds to Kennedy's upper back, shoulder, and the back of his head were post-mortem wounds. He was already dead. So in other words, they tossed the body on
Right, the bruises, yeah.
and so there it is. There's your bruises. I mean, you toss a body 30 or 40 feet, it's dead. There's still going to be post-mortem wounds to a body for a while. I mean, and that's, I'm sorry, I went way off there, but that's conspiracies. Okay.
Yeah, no, this is a conspiracy
This is
show.
it. This is
They
it.
all
Conspiracy show.
tie into each other.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
crazy. It's like you said, the Alice in
Yeah.
Wonderland's hole, right? Or her
Yeah.
rabbit
Yeah.
hole.
Whatever that is. I've not, the labyrinth.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
You've read that more than I have. Sorry. Okay.
Well, and again, so obviously Vietnam caused some different things. You had the War Powers Act, right?
Jeez. Yep.
So now the president needed congressional approval because Lyndon Johnson went in without approval. He just signed a resolution act,
Right.
and they started attacking Vietnam.
And they've turned their backs on the War Powers Act.
Well, that's changed now.
Well, the opposite of which is now the president can do nothing if he wants to, which is what Biden has done. Sorry. Okay.
Well,
you're going to lose customers here, but he's reversed it. It's interesting, but go ahead.
Well, he's using the if you think about it, what he's using right now is the Patriot Act in Directive 51, which basically gives the president supreme power.
Yeah.
They don't have as long as there's an emergency. It's what George Bush did, and here let's get into that.
Oh wow, jeez.
So 9/11.
Wow.
Now there's a whole that's tomorrow. All right.
Jeez.
So
yeah.
You know, here we are talking about preludes to war, right? So things happen. We kind of know they're going to happen. We either say we think they're going to happen or we have evidence that they're going to happen. The American public is kind of kept out until the actual event happens, right?
Yeah.
And then the event happens, and everybody coalesces, everybody unites, and it's one. Now it's one nation. Let's go get them. And this was obviously a tragic event, but what's interesting to me now, besides Gulf of Tonkin, Pearl Harbor, you had the kamikazes, right? They're flying planes into ships, okay? And then here we are 60 years later, and they're flying planes in the building. It seems a little repetitive.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It certainly does. Yeah, I remember. Everybody knows. Well, anybody of a certain age knows where they were. It's funny because in high school today, we had our principal came over to the intercom and gave appropriate, honoring. We had a moment of silence for 9/11, and one of my kids, it's really funny. First hour says, well, he used some expletives, public school, of course. He says, "Holy bleep, I wasn't even born effing yet." I thought, okay, thank you for sharing that with us, Bryce.
Boy, we would have gotten expelled at Westminster.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, that and probably whatever else, who knows? But I mean, But he had a point. He says, "Why are we celebrating this?" And then another girl said, "Yeah, we just gave it all back to the Taliban with Afghanistan, because this is Boca, and that's how the
Yeah,
girls
that's how they
talk.
talk.
Sorry, we just gave it all back to them, and all. So why are we even celebrating this 20 years later? We just gave the Taliban back everything they want." I thought, wow. I didn't say a word. It was a moment of silence. They weren't supposed to be talking, but it was psychology, nothing to do with U.S. history per se. But that was this morning, first hour, about around 8:35. I had those two responses. Expletives, of course. What are you going to do? Good
Well,
kids.
at least these kids kind of are getting it.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I
Public
mean,
school too, man. And they're Boca Raton High School, great place to work, and there's smart kids there. I mean, I don't know. They were, I didn't say anything because it was supposed to be a moment of silence, and they're chiming in. So anyway, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of press,
yeah.
whatever.
Well, they're
Fifth
kids.
Amendment, sure, go ahead, kids. And that's it. And then we got to get into our stuff, in which we
So,
did.
what's your opinion of 9/11?
Oh, geez, wow. Where do we
There's
go?
so many conspiracies.
Yes, well,
This is one
I
of
will
them.
say this.
The dancing Israelis. I thought this one was interesting.
Okay, go ahead.
So if you Googled or you go on YouTube, you go on Google, you can type in dancing Israelis. And
Jeez.
basically this was a group of guys who were parked in an area where it was like a good area to view the Twin Towers, right?
Okay.
Now they were there prior to the towers, according to witness testimony. They were there in moving trucks, which was owned by a Jewish company, which was a front for the Mossad, which is the Israeli intelligence agency.
Yes,
So it's
yes.
it's the Israeli version of the CIA. So
Wow.
the moving trucks were owned by this Jewish moving company, but it was turned out to be, the CIA does the same thing too. They go to other countries, they set up businesses, and they're just fronts. They're spying. It's a spying campaign. But these guys were sent to videotape, to document the event.
Mhm.
So they were seen, eyewitness testimony seen, parked in these moving vans, standing on the roofs of these moving vans with camera equipment and video cameras and regular cameras, and they were documenting the event. So this is before the towers. This is before any planes were in the air. They were there waiting, and then when the planes hit, they were cheering, and that's what they were dancing on the roofs of these moving trucks. And then, of course, the FBI comes in and confiscates all the footage and arrests them, and nothing ever happened. But nothing was ever even said about it until years later. It came out. The CIA agent was, he basically came out and blew the whistle. But that doesn't necessarily say that the Israelis were responsible for 9/11, but they knew about it.
So there was a confidential CIA informant involved. Apparently, must have been. Well, you're hearing a lot of that with the of January 6th. You have confidential FBI informants. That's why the FBI has dropped their role.
Yeah, provocateurs. Yeah.
Yeah, and also the alleged kidnapping plot of Governor Whitmer of Michigan. Same thing. FBI informants. I mean, top level people that are orchestrating these things and maybe getting some crazy people like you and I, to go along with it, and then.
Well, and then they're putting the fence back up around the Capitol.
Yeah, I know, because of the the trial. And the one guy that was a Democrat, he wants to get out of the whole situation because he admits that he was there dressed as a Trump supporter, and he wants charges against him dropped. And that's kind of blown a hole in the whole thing. The whole.
Yeah, I saw the judge was like, you put it back in jail. Was like, hey man, you're not like, it's on record saying, hey, you're not supposed to talk about this.
Yeah, he's back in.
Like, what the heck is that?
Yeah, I know. I don't know. That's the time.
So I thought this was interesting. Robert Mueller became director of the FBI 1 week before 9/11.
Wow.
And and we could make a whole episode about Robert Mueller. Okay?
And the Trump impeachment, the
2016,
bunch of crap.
the Russian investigation and all that.
Yeah.
So obviously,
Ukrainian phone call. Jeez.
yeah.
I can't.
Well, you can't rattle the deep state's cage.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm surprised you're.
so, and then,
I'm surprised we'll have a show after tonight. But go ahead.
Oh yeah, we will, as long as we don't talk about the
What, the truth?
The medical tyranny that's taking place.
Oh, jeez.
I'm still in Facebook jail. I'll be out in 2 days.
Okay. Yeah.
Or 3 days, I think.
Yeah. Facebook.
And so,
Oh.
once I'm out of Facebook timeout, we can go on Facebook Live, and then I can actually start advertising and stuff on it. So.
Okay. And unfortunately, I'm not on Facebook. One of the reasons.
Well, that's why we're on this channel.
Yeah.
This is
And
why
one of the
the
reasons
channel
I'm
was
not on
created.
Facebook, I have to admit, and it's personal, I don't have any friends. Go ahead. Continue.
And we don't have any viewers either.
Yeah, I know we don't have any viewers either. That's all right.
That's okay.
Fine.
It's called organic growth.
Yeah,
so,
something like that.
Now this was a big conspiracy.
I had an organic growth removed last week. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, that's disgusting.
That's disgusting. But go ahead. That's why it's cold beverages.
Yeah. So I thought this was interesting. Now, whether you believe the Twin Towers fell, I mean, we all know they fell, but were they demolished, or were they, did they fall naturally?
All the stuff was hauled away, and your cousin John Paul worked at the demolition site and was hired. He said, "Aren't you guys going to investigate this stuff? This is your cousin, first cousin, out in California, a liberal, by the way, a really progressive liberal in California."
That's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Exactly. We love them.
Everybody, hey,
that's right.
That's their freedom to do it. Everybody gets a voice.
He's out there marching for Gavin Newsom right now. But anyway,
good for him.
He says he didn't understand why everything was hauled away. Aren't you going to forensically examine it? And they said, do you still want a job? He said, yeah. I said, well,
yeah.
Go ahead here and haul stuff away. Okay, all right. And he took it out wherever it was in New York Harbor, and they buried it or whatever, East River. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just gonna say all this photo is one of those other conspiracy theories that were the Twin Towers, was it a controlled demolition, or did it actually collapse in on itself?
Well, you have firefighters at Building 7 telling
Building 7 was definitely a demolition,
and the firefighters
it wasn't even it.
Yeah, you had the firefighter saying that exact thing. They're saying
you had buildings all around that.
Yeah,
that
you
center.
need to clear out of here. They're saying they're on tape saying New York firefighters, NY, whatever. They are saying you need to get out of here. It's a controlled demolition, and all of a sudden, Building 7 goes down.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, and then in this photo, if you look at that red triangle, that beam, those are the support beams for, I think it was the South Tower or the North Tower.
Okay.
And it's cut at an angle. Now they say, well, this picture was taken, after these guys that were removing the beams, the steel, the debris, they cut it. Well, okay. So my only thing is like, look at all the beams that they cut around it.
Yeah.
They're all straight. They're all straight cuts, but this one is cut at an angle. Now, if you look at other like once a building is demolished, the support beams, the steel beams, are always cut at an angle. Same reason why when a lumberjack cuts a tree, right? He's going to cut it at an angle because he wants it to fall a certain way. So I don't know. I don't know if I really believe this one or not. I think, you could say that, hey, this was, this was these guys cut it, but I don't know. Obviously, the planes hit the building with such impact.
Sure.
The jet fuel and all that was kind of contained in there. You had those center elevator shafts where a lot of the jet fuel poured down. It created other floors on fire, weakened the steel, and then it went down. So there is stuff like this. They found thermosite in the dust particles.
Yeah.
So if you know what a thermosite is, it's a detonation. It's for detonating buildings. So this is an actual photo of dust.
It burns at a really high temperature.
Yeah.
Under normal circumstances, these people probably would have been able to endure it, but you see people jumping because they can't take the heat. And we're probably going to hear some of those tape recordings, which are
Yeah, and we're not going to solve 9/11. That's not the purpose of the show tonight. But what the purpose of the show, again, is a prelude to war. What did this get us? This got us a lot of bad stuff. It got us a 20-year war in Afghanistan, like what you were talking about earlier, trillions of dollars, billions of dollars of military equipment that taxpayer paid for. It's just sitting there. You know, they don't want us to have guns, but they're going to give guns to the Taliban, right?
Yep, Taliban has all the guns they need.
And then George Bush, I know he was a Republican and people like him, but George Bush was a little. I mean,
no, you're right.
There was a lot of things that happened right after he was elected.
Yeah.
What you got there? What is that? Is that rye?
It's water. It's a cold beverage. Cold beverage.
Hi, Lisa.
Okay, there she is. And that's the daughter of the catamaran flying boat guy in Corpus Christi, Texas, World War II vet. She's the daughter of a World War II vet who was tracking Nazi submarines. He had just turned 18, and they were tracking Nazi submarines in the Gulf of Mexico. In 1945, they were still in, and they have video footage, film footage of it in 1945. Neil Delaney. I met him one time in 1996. My future father-in-law, but anyway, World War II vet, and I love this country. American Legion. Sorry, she's out the room now, but anyway, go ahead. Back to George Bush. George Bush, National Guard.
Patriot Act.
He got a National Guard exemption, and he was a for the Texas National Guard. He avoided Vietnam duty. Now, I avoided Vietnam duty because I failed 2 draft physicals. 1970 and 71.
You had a leg injury.
Yeah. And I mean, it was legit. I have the photos. Dr. Cannell has the picture of my knee with the cartilage still lodged in the ACL, which I could, probably if I had a microphone on my knee, I could click it for you. But anyway, George Bush.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. I don't know what to say, with George Bush. You got some stuff there. Go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, it just the cause and effects of these 3 events that we talked about. World War II, Gulf of Tonkin, and now 9/11. There was obviously a major event that got everybody together, and then that gives the government kind of more power, more control each time, each event. They get more and more control. And remember this: what the Patriot Act was. Everybody was told it was about terrorism, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you think of terrorism, you think of the terrorists, the hijackers, and the plane. But it also says domestic terrorists too. So, and the Patriot Act was, George Bush brought it in, I think, in 2007. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
It was signed back into law by Obama. It was signed back into law by Trump, and it's been signed back into law by Biden. And if you read the Patriot Act and Directive 51, which you can't read Directive 51. Directive 51 is a part of the Patriot Act. It is classified, but it basically, the stuff that gets leaked out is terrifying. And so, the NSA can spy. They can get your phone records, your bank records, anything, and all they have to do is say, well, we think he's a terrorist, or we think he's involved in, nefarious activities.
Go on Netflix. I have the actual DVD, but go on Netflix and watch Snowden. You've got to.
Yeah, I heard that was
homework assignment. I'm trying to get my wife here to watch Snowden. I have it here, but I've only watched it one time, and it just freaked me out. Okay.
Yeah, and so this is like what you see on your screen there. This is really like one of the only few things I could find on the Presidential Directive 51. And it basically gives the president now supreme power.
Dictatorial powers.
Dictatorial power. You're seeing it. You're seeing it play out. You saw it play out yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday, no question. He's ignoring the 10th Amendment big time.
And I
just saying, hey, we're going to do this, and this.
I thought you would love this this chart.
Wow.
Targeted individual program is part of Directive 51. It's basically who are the target of individuals. And if you look to kind of
Probably
see
me.
this guy put it together, but it's actually really interesting. You have the central banks up top. That's the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Federal Reserve, the richest people in the world, the richest families in the world, obviously control, the Council for Relations, all this stuff. You got the current, all the alphabet agencies, right? And who are they after? They're after you. If you don't agree with,
Yeah.
if you're not, in the political,
Yep.
party that they want, or you're not saying what they want on Facebook, you're on a list. So how far they take it before people start
Yeah.
standing up, I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
Probably won't even be able to sell any T-shirts here in the next couple of weeks if this keeps going. Sorry.
Well, actually, so that's a funny thing you brought up. So in 2022, if this infrastructure bill gets passed in 2022, anyone with $600 or more in their bank accounts, the IRS can monitor their bank account. It used to be 10,000.
Oh, yeah.
$10,000.
Yeah.
So if you had more than $10,000 in your bank account, any transaction the IRS could monitor.
Well, I'm a
Now
school teacher. I'm a school
it's
teacher.
$600 now.
Yeah, I'm a school teacher now, so it looks like I'll be safe. Sorry, that's not
I
really true.
mean,
But go ahead. I know it's crazy.
we are witnessing. I think it's you could
Yeah.
call it managed decline. They don't
Yeah.
want to just crash the system, but they want to just slowly
Yeah.
pick it away. I mean,
Sure.
after every one of these events, America didn't really get any freer.
No.
You kind of had a little bit of freedom for a little
Yeah.
while, but then the government kind of
Yeah.
reconfigures and then comes back down. It's this
Yeah.
retract and then pounce, and then
Yeah.
kind of retract a little bit and then pounce. And every time they pounce, it's a little bit more and more and more constrictive. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on all this?
Well, I was thinking, because of the rate we're going, that maybe I would go to a tattoo parlor and see if they could just tattoo a mask on my face, and that's it. I'll be okay. That's my thoughts. It's crazy. All this stuff. It's a wide swath, that you have here. See, I picked up a few. I did contact a friend of mine in Detroit who had worked at Wright-Patterson. I looked him up online and I found him, and Joe Bodiford is his name. And he confirmed what I said about the UFO stuff at Wright-Patterson when he was working as an Air Force guard at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Dayton, Tennessee. He confirmed what I said. And it was really good to hear from him, because I hadn't talked to him since you guys.
Well, we could bring guests on this show. You know that, right?
Now you don't know this, but you might remember when I took you and Jeffrey as little boys to Detroit, and we went to one of the auto factories. We walked into a booth, at a Chrysler booth, guard booth, and he was sitting there. He was still working there. He was about 10 years older than me, so he's not. I know he's retired now, but I introduced you guys to him, and then I asked him some questions, and we exchanged, and I got in contact with him. African American guy, really nice. He was glad to meet you guys, glad to see that, like 10, 12 years later that I had kids. He was surprised about that.
Yeah, I bet he was really surprised.
I got married and had kids. How'd that happen? But anyway, and we talked. I recontacted him, and he confirmed our account of what he saw at Wright-Patterson, and said, yeah, that's what I saw. I saw top secret stuff, man. They had stuff going on in those warehouses and stuff. I don't know what was going on, but I saw this stuff. Yes, I can confirm that. He's like 81.
Well, and like we always say, Americans are on a need to know basis, and Americans don't need to know. So,
so all right. Okay, good.
Well, I think that wraps it up. I mean, we didn't solve any of the world's problems. We didn't answer any of these conspiracies. But as you can see, I think the purpose of the show was just mostly to show, hey, these are the things that always happen prior to an event. And then here we are in a pandemic. Okay.
Wow.
We were we had a leak, or someone ate bat soup or whatever it was. Okay, we
Oh, geez.
people got sick,
Yeah.
and some people didn't make it, and then now all of a sudden we got all these new rules and laws
Yeah.
and mandates. It's always the same.
Yep. Yep.
And the dollar's going down, the market's going down. It's just if you're not ready, folks,
Yeah.
okay, go get ready.
Yeah.
Buy a couple weeks of storable food. Life might not be so comfy here, especially if truckers start protesting, or if
Yeah.
you look at America as a whole, like if you try to picture, the whole country, right?
Mhm.
If you look at a map and you see all these big cities, right? All these big places, and then all the highways and all the little roads, right? It all looks like little veins, right? All these little veins. Well, if you look at trucking, if you look at truckers are like the blood flowing through those veins,
Yeah.
carrying oxygen and nutrients and everything it needs to all these little
Yeah.
cities and stuff. If those truckers, if the government says, hey, you can't be on an interstate highway, or
Yeah.
you can't renew your CDL license, which truckers have to have, it's a CDL license. If you
Yeah.
can't renew your license without taking this shot,
Yeah.
well, these guys, they're not gonna put up with that.
No,
A
they're
lot of
not.
them aren't gonna do it.
No.
And so you're not gonna get your produce. You're not gonna get
Yeah.
your gas. You're not
No.
gonna get any. You might get some, but it's gonna be very sparse, and you might
Yeah.
start seeing some
Yeah.
stuff happening. I don't
That's
know.
true.
I'm hoping it's just talk. I'm hoping what he
Yeah.
said yesterday was just a distraction.
Yeah. Me too.
Like, hey, it's just he said it. He wanted to get everybody away from Afghanistan. He's not even talking tomorrow.
Yeah. That's right. It's a
He's just
recording.
visiting these public events, but he's not giving a speech.
It's a recording. What if
Yeah,
Trump had done that?
it's a recording.
All your left-wing friends out there, what if Trump had done this? You guys would be all over that. I'm sorry if we lose more people. Nobody's
Because
here anyway.
people didn't like Trump. You ever
Yeah.
okay? So like, I had a couple girlfriends, right? And they're,
Yeah.
one of them thought I was like the greatest guy in the world and I could
Yeah.
do no wrong, right? And then and then one of them thought I was, after a month or whatever, she began to loathe me and rue me or whatever, and
Jeez.
then like every little thing I did was a big deal, like was a problem, right? So I mean that's just how it was with Trump. Not
Yeah.
a lot of people liked him.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sure they'd probably take him. Some of them would take him back now and
Yeah.
just kind of deal with his kind of brash and
Yeah. I've heard that.
brash behavior.
Some of my coworkers. Yep.
But they didn't like him, so obviously every little thing he did was a problem.
Yeah.
So,
Be
but
careful. Be careful
here we
be careful what you hope for, and what you're willing to give up. I guess that's my ending slogan. Whatever.
all right. Well, we got to give a couple shout outs to people.
Okay. Is Monik on there? Monik Samini?
I think she said hi on the chats. She says
Okay.
she's watching. She didn't give you any money, Dan.
Okay.
No, but this one person that triggered Karen says she donated to this show, and she says worst show on YouTube, men are pigs. So why would you donate money and then to say that?
I don't know. Maybe at the tail end we won her over. She'd already pressed pay.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Triggered Karen doesn't sound like something. It sounds like that's her job. Triggered Karen. Junebugs Funeral says buy gold and silver.
Yeah.
So thank you, Junebug.
Yep.
Donnie Dingleberry says, Mr. Joynt, what's hanging?
I think he was in Fifth Hour 5 years ago. Sorry, go
these
ahead.
might be some of your students messing with
Yeah,
us.
it might be from some of the Boca High students.
Yeah.
I told them about this.
Yeah, well, hey, tell them to donate. They get a free T-shirt.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's the last
and
thing.
I'll post next episode. We won't get them, not next week, but the week after we'll have them available. What I'll do is I'll probably put my email address, and you can leave a comment on the YouTube channel, and just if I know you, I'll reach out to you or whatever.
Okay.
I can You know, they'll be mailed to you. You don't have to come all the way up to North Florida to get them. And Dad, I'll send you one too, so you can wear it during the show. Vertical Smile says, "I have a President Bush." Jesus Christ, these people.
Wow.
These people are horrible.
With that, let's call it.
Yeah. All right, Dad.
Love you.
Have a good night.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. We'll be here next week. Again, we will have T-shirts available here soon. And I showed you what they would look like earlier. So don't forget, catch us next week, Mr. Joynt Live on YouTube. Have a good week, everybody.